Hello, I'm Rad, and today I'm going to explain to you how to become a Power BI developer. What are skills you need to become a Power BI developer? Let's talk about those. So if you want to be a Power BI developer, there are a set of skills, soft skills and let's say technical skills that you need to learn. This video is mostly talking about the technical skills that you need to learn. The first thing I always start with is the data modeling. I wouldn't start with Power BI Desktop, even you want to become a Power BI developer, but I don't start with that. I would start with the data modeling. This is like the principle of any BI system, regardless of the technology. You might use Excel, you might use Power BI, you might use Tableau, ClickSense, anything you use. First, you need to learn about data modeling. What is data modeling? It's the art of designing tables, their columns, how they are related to each other. This is really important. Building the star schema, what is dimension table, what is fact table, instead of like just putting tables together. So it is really critical, really important that you put some efforts in learning and designing it. This mainly is a design by pen and paper because you design the tables and their structures. So it's more like a conceptual learning, but definitely an important step. That is why I mentioned it as a first step to learn. That is something that unfortunately I don't see many people has a good understanding of it. And there are many good resources, two of them that I would suggest. Definitely I would suggest the Data Warehouse Toolkit. This is a book that written by Kimball, one of the fathers of the data warehousing concept in terms of the terminology and how it comes to play, what's data mart. He talks about dimension table, fact tables. Every chapter of this book talks about a different scenario, like what if we want to design a data warehouse for HR system? What if we want to do it for sales? What if we want to do it for inventory? So it's more like a reference book. I definitely suggest you to take a look at it. Also, I have written a book on basics of Power BI modeling, which brings those concepts into the Power BI, how the relationship in Power BI works, how you can have fact tables, dimension tables, and the star schema designed in there. So I would definitely suggest these. And there are, of course, many articles and videos online. The second thing, you are going to be a Power BI developer, so you need to be familiarized with the Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop looks like a simple environment, but still you need to spend time, you need to learn how to do things. And there are many books. I have a set of books called Power BI from Rookie to Rockstar. That can be a good starting point. There are many other articles and videos about getting started with Power BI. A lot of these things I'm talking about in this video, the links are down in the description below, so go and check it out. The third thing you need to learn as a Power BI developer is an ETL technology, tool, or service. Or data transformation. What is ETL? ETL stands for extract, transform, load. Means you connect to a data source, you extract data from it. It might be one data source or multiple. You extract data from it, you'll do some data transformation, reshape the data. It might be multiple tables, you might join them, merge them, build one table, or you might do some other things such as aggregations and lookups and filters and things like that, and finally load it into a destination. The destination can be a data warehouse, it can be a database, data mart, Power BI dataset, anything. There are many tools in the world of ETL. If you are coming from enterprise BI background, ETL tools such as SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services, Azure Data Factory are good ETL tools and services for that. You can see also there are a lot of users using basically just T-SQL scripts, stored procedures, and things like that to build their ETL procedure. Whatever you use, you need to be familiar with those concepts and technologies. In the world of Power BI, we do ETL with Power Query. Power Query is quite a powerful ETL engine. It extracts data from more than 80 data sources. You can do all the transformations mostly through graphical interface, but you have also a powerful engine to write a script called M as well, and then load it into a destination. And when Power Query run online, it can be part of data flow, which brings even some more interesting features. So if you want to learn about Power Query, again, there are a lot of resources. The powerquery.com website itself has many resources. We have more than 200 articles in RADACAD website, all free for you, available, many videos about Power Query, and there are many other channels, YouTube channels, and blog authors who talked about Power Query. We have 2 books on Power Query, which is Getting Started and Mastering Power Query, and the 3rd book is also coming, which is about data flow. So you can either use these or the blogs and videos I mentioned, or the combinations. Again, all the links are down in the description below in the link to my blog. The 4th thing you need to learn is an analytical language. You need to learn about how to write calculations and do analytical calculations in Power BI. Well, in Power BI, the language to write these is DAX, Data Analysis Expression. This is a language that is a combination of like Excel formula, a little bit C#, a little bit T-SQL combined together, created a new language called DAX. DAX is a powerful language, but it can be confusing, so you need to spend time, you need to practice to learn it perfectly well. That is an area that a lot of Power BI developers spend a lot of time improving themselves, and it is good. Now, I mentioned this section as analytical language. I didn't mention DAX. Why? Because DAX is one of the languages you need to learn. I would suggest you to learn also other things. Like, for example, you can do calculations in Power Query. You can do calculations using T-SQL if your data is coming from the source that is relational database. You might need to learn MDX if your data is coming from like legacy OLAP multidimensional analysis services database. You need to learn those languages, not that because you use it like every day, because sometimes some calculations can be written as a pre-calculation and they might be better option to be done in using other languages rather than using in DAX as a measure and bringing that CPU consumption up to like whatever percentage that might not be needed. So that is why you need to understand some other languages as well. Just learning DAX as an analytical language might not help. Now, if you want to learn DAX, there are tons of resources. Our friends at SQL BI, Marco and Alberto, are definitely the go-to point for these. They have tons of books. These are just a couple of their books in there. Everything from their other articles, their videos, their books, I definitely recommend that. I also written a book on DAX, and I tried to explain DAX in a simplified way. So like complex concepts explained in a very simple to understand way. So either one of these or all of them or all of the materials you can find about DAX, definitely worth learning. The more you learn about this language, the better you'll become. And it is all by practice, of course. Visualization. Of course, you need to learn about visualization as well. And visualization looks simple, like you drag and drop a chart and put values in it. But in fact, you need to think about best practices. You need to think about how to tell the right story, how to do this, how to do that, define the interaction. When I click on this chart, another chart, what it would become, what is the colors and themes and the layout. There are a lot of details in it to make sure that you convey the right message to your users. Visualization is like the front end of your system. If you don't do the right visualization, you wouldn't have the good impact of on the user. They wouldn't be able to make informative decision. There are tons of books and articles about that. Stephen Few is one of those who build a really good like course set for visualization, and there are many other articles and videos as well. I have a link for a few of these down in the description below. Layla also have some videos in our YouTube channel about visualizations. So have a look at those and start learning about visualization. Deployment and architecture is the 6th item I would suggest here. Now, as a Power BI developer, you might say, well, I'm a Power BI developer. I don't really need to know about gateway installation. I don't need to know what the licensing looks like, what the sharing is, administration of it, or I don't really need to know what is data set versus data flow, what is the architecture blueprint, all of these. that is right. If you are in a big BI team, that somebody is taking care of architecture, deployment, administration, things like that, that is right. However, in many Power BI implementation, we see that the number of resources on the Power BI team is not really that much. So you might be needed to know these. You might know how the licensing works. You might know how the sharing works, how the architecture works, because you do not want to replicate your code in different places and things like that. So understanding about architecture, understanding about administration is important, but again, the level of that depends on how you are placed within the team. These two books are good suggestions I would recommend. One of them is the book I written about Power BI architecture. It's a bit old, but still many concepts in that is true. And for up-to-date versions of that, you can actually look at my articles and videos in RADACAD, and a book on Power BI administration as well, written by Michael and Oscar. I would definitely recommend that as well. Big data. As a Power BI developer, you might need to work with big data. It doesn't happen every time. It doesn't happen for every developer, because you might work with a really small data set. In that case, you don't really need to understand big data, but it happens also that you have a situation that you need to learn about big data. You have like trillions of rows, billions of rows, how to work with that in Power BI. Are you going to import that? Are you going to build a composite model? If you build a composite model, how your aggregations are set up? What is the performance tuning tips that you need to consider? Learning about these is not just for big data. Sometimes performance tuning tips helps even in your small data set. So I would recommend spending time learning about these. Of course, big data technologies such as Azure Synapse and many other technologies, you need to learn that through books and things like that. But for performance tuning, for aggregations, for composite model, there are links, blogs, articles, series that I have links in the description below. Go and check it out. AI and machine learning. Again, as a Power BI developer, you might say, well, I'm not the data scientist. There is a data scientist who is responsible for that. But because you are working with data, because you are working in a process of analyzing data, you are basically doing descriptive analysis because you are describing whatever data is. You might also get to the point that you might need to be working on the future planning, on what is coming, what is happening, what is going to be in the future based on the pattern existing in the data, some kind of like predictive analytics and things like that. For those, you need to learn some AI, machine learning. There are some built-in, simple to use AI functionalities in Power BI, but you can of course get much better information out of it if you know about cognitive services, how to use it, if you know about things such as Azure Machine Learning Studio and services, R and Python. All of these would be helpful, and there are again many articles and books about that. These are 3 books from Leila on this subject, but there are many other articles and books that you can start studying. Now, everything that I told you so far is more like a soft skill. Tech skill. Tech skills are important, but definitely you need to work on soft skills as well. But because this is not a video about soft skill, it would take an hour in that case. I just go through them very quickly. These are a few options. These are things that you need to know regardless of the technology you are working with. You need to be able to communicate with people. You need to be able to read RFP, request for proposal, and answer that with an estimate of how much time it is going to take. You need to practice and be able to provide an estimate which is quite accurate, close to the actual value. You need to be able to talk with people, listen to what their needs is. You need to be able to write to them what the questions you might have and what explanation you want to pass on to them, and read their requirement. You need to be able to have a little bit of consulting, and let's say dial as well, which when you talk with someone from business side, you turn the dial on the business side. When you talk to someone in technical side, you turn the dial into the technical side. You need to have the can-do attitude, to be team worker. Project management always helps. A bit of account management, presentation skills. There are many in the soft skills area, and you need to practice them beside your tech skills. And finally, this is not a skill to learn, but Power BI community is definitely a big resource to be connected with. you need to stay up to date, and there are many ways to stay up to date. One of them is to be in touch with the local user groups in your town, in your city, in your region. There are tons of user groups in every country. You can go and find a user group closer to you and go and connect with them. These days everything is online. You might find an online user group. We also have a user group in Oakland that runs online as well. Community forums, the community.powerbi.com is a good place to get your answers, your questions answered. Ideas website, that is a good place to pass on your ideas to the Power BI team or see what others have as their ideas and vote for it. A lot of blog authors in this area. If I want to name them, it would be like too many, and YouTube channels. There are links to a few of them down in the description below. That doesn't mean that those that I haven't put that in the description below is not, let's say, worthwhile reading. Definitely all of them are worthwhile reading. These are just those that came into my mind. So here you go, 10 things that helps you to become a Power BI developer, and I hope you enjoy this path, you'll enjoy becoming a Power BI developer, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help. Thank you. Bye.